go ahead and start the introductions. I'm Paula Williams with ABCI. We help aviation companies sell more of their products and services.
I'm John Williams, and I also work for her, ABCI.
I'm Michael Duke, and I am the founder of DBT Aero, and we are making sustainable flight affordable and fast. And so it's exciting to be in aviation, and I look forward to moving out of development and into marketing and sales and all of those other aspects that have been on hold for a few years. So it's going to be a fun transition.
And congratulations, by the way, on just receiving the Innovator of the Year for the Utah Aeronautical Society. That's a big deal, especially for something that's been so long in the making. Everything is harder than anybody expects.
Well, thank you. It was certainly a surprise to me, but and I was telling my wife, it's like all of the things that I've done over the years, and you put them on the resume, and it's like, wow, you did that, and wow, you did that. Never gotten recognized for anything, and then we're still in the middle of slogging through all of this stuff, and there's some recognition. It's like, I've never been recognized before. This is like really weird. So.
I have no idea how to behave.
Move that to the top of your resume.
There you go.
Free marketing.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm Stella Bolden. I live in Mexico, and I love the beach, as you can tell behind me. I don't actually live at the beach, but I go there frequently. So I'm a copywriter for ABCI and a few other clients. My specialty niche is travel and hospitality, but I write on anything. If it pays money, I can write on it. So I'm in the middle of some big projects right now. So this is a nice break.
Right. And good writing is good writing. And it has a lot to do with good speaking. I think it all comes down to good thinking and, good communication, really. Welcome. I know we probably will have a real small crowd today because it is a holiday weekend, and also it's public speaking and everybody is afraid, right?
No problems with public speaking.
Good for you. And Michael, I know you've done some as well, so you are not afraid.
Well, what's the big deal? We talk to people every day, right?
Exactly.
That is absolutely true. So, the book is How Highly Effective People Speak by Peter D. Andrei. And there was no Audible version of this book, which made me nuts because it's about speaking. So what kind of a book about speaking is not available on Audible? That's
somebody who hasn't bothered to record it.
Exactly. Well, and also, once I got into the book, I realized this is not about speaking. This is about convincing content. And you could use these principles. And this is, he calls it, behavioral economics. And you can use this on, written campaigns. You can use this in copywriting all the time, Stella. I know, this is AWAI straight up material, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
They wouldn't admit to that, but
well, exactly. Nobody has the corner on the market of knowledge. It started with Aristotle, doing the three principles of rhetoric, and everybody now has their own flavor of that, and they just call it something slightly different and maybe go into a little more detail about it. But
the whole principle of active listening and empathy are critical to persuasion. If you can't speak the language of whoever you're talking to, they're not going to listen to you. They're going to shut you down.
Right. Exactly. So I thought we just kind of do like first impressions of the book, and then maybe share your favorite thing or a story or something like that about public speaking, especially something that's helpful for the people that listen to this, which are aviation folks. Of course, we have a deadline for call for proposals by July 1st for NBAA in October. So that's one of the best opportunities of the year for public speaking for aviation professionals. and then come back around and, give it a 1 to 10 rating. So what do you think? Sound like an agenda?
Sounds good.
And we can do introductions to start with, since we're all doing this for publicity, right? So anyway, I'm putting a little cheat sheet in the chat window of kind of the framework of the book. If it's basically what I learned in high school debate, about cognitive biases and how to use them for good and evil. And so on. And those kinds of things. And he put it into a mnemonic, which is one of his principles, is, making things simplified and making them easy to remember. So, that's kind of the outline for the book. But I'm actually interested in any stories you have about public speaking, or, how it benefited you, or anything else, as much as anything from the book. So it just kind of, my first impression of the book was, this is really cool. Somebody put together all of that stuff that you get in bits and pieces through. And of course, Stella and I did the AWAI copywriting courses and all of that, where we talk about persuasion, and we talk about logical fallacies, and we talk about biases, and we talk about all of those things that people have. Human beings, not being computers, they think in very specific ways. And if you know something about what those ways are, you can use them for good or evil. And if you think about every person that's ever been really influential in the world, they were good communicators, not necessarily good thinkers, and not necessarily the most wholesome individuals, but they were good speakers in almost every single case. And so having this put together in a way that is kind of scientific, and you can go through some of the campaigns and some of the writing and some of the speeches and outlines that we're doing, and go, did we cover all these points, and could we do better? It's really nice to have a checklist, I think but anyway, so that's my first impression of the book.
What's interesting is, up until I went to business school, I was reticent to speak in public. During business school, we had a class on public speaking. Mm-hmm. And they had the anchorman from the largest station in town come down and provide the class. And it wasn't just about speaking, although that was a large part of it. And then after a couple of hours, each person in the class had to extemporaneously talk about a topic on camera. And that was the most interesting experience, because you had to do it till you got it right, to look like you were a normal, happy.
It's really hard to be normal.
Happy-go-lucky kind of guy on camera.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be normal first.
Yeah, well, that's not going to work for me. So, so anyway, we went through that, and that was quite an experience, because I don't know, the way I finally ended up doing it, and I didn't do this intentionally, but as I look back on it, I felt like I was standing outside my body looking at me, and as long as I did that, everything worked out right. like I wasn't in control of the body, it was doing its thing. And I look back on the camera, the recording, and said, holy cow, I did that? Anyway, since then, it's gotten easier with every time you do it.
So it was so scary, it was an out-of-body experience?
No, but what I mean is, it just felt like you were standing next to yourself.
Yeah.
And, I could see me moving around and doing all kinds of stuff and acting like I was comfortable, and I wasn't the first time. But it gets better, every time you do it, it gets better.
Mm-hmm.
And like Michael said, they're just people, and everybody communicates and talks to other people. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So you just will get comfy with it.
Right.
Unless you're a hermit.
Right. Well, and it is a very real phobia for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And I think, you can build up to larger and larger groups, and once you get past a certain number, it doesn't matter anymore. It's just people. And some of the folks that we've worked with, we have some excellent speakers in the group. Sherry Chaput is one, David Santo is another, that I have learned so much from, because they get so into their topic and they get so involved in what they're doing, and they are such great educators to begin with.
And they're both now asked to go speak.
That's what you want to do, is make it so that those organizations and things that you belong to are really seeking you out as the speaker, for their events and things. So
I would much rather public speak than be in a room full of people and have to hang out.
Okay.
Because if it's public speaking, I'm in control.
Mm-hmm.
And so, a panel discussion, whatever, there's interaction, things going on. If it's actual speaking, they're my slides or it's my talk. So I'm happy to do those because I'm controlling the environment. I'm controlling the situation. Wandering around a room where I'm expected to go meet people and talk is like, where's the punch bowl? I'm going to go get a piece of cake.
Right.
Stuff my mouth and just like, wave and, I'm sorry, I'm busy. And I don't know. I'm not a one-on-one. I'd much rather speak to a group or give a presentation.
That's interesting. That's really a cool perspective, because, you're great with the structured time. So, you can organize opportunities for yourself that are more structured. And I think that's a good advantage if you know that about yourself. That's really cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, as a member of our church, we have been asked to give little talks in front of people since I was, 6 or 7 years old. So, I've been giving talks, for a lot of years, over 50 years.
Right.
And as a result, it doesn't bother me. Certainly there's prep, and that's fine. That's part of, if you're going to speak, you need to go do your prep and get yourself ready.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Now it's my topic. It's my time. It's my flow. I can make it go wherever I want. I can go from a script or I can go from an outline, but it's up to me to do what I want. And it's my presentation, if you will. But the random one-on-one where it's completely open is like, how many kids you have?
Right.
That's not my cup of tea. The movie or the TV show Cheers.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't get it. They come in after work, they sit down, and they just kind of hang out and talk. And it's like, why are you wasting all this time? I mean, like, I don't get it. Like, go home, get some work done, read the mail, mow the lawn, play with the kids, something. But I mean, this whole just hang out, chit chat culture, I don't get it. It doesn't connect with me. And that's what a lot of these social events are, is you just kind of hang out. And that's the piece that's the part that drives me nuts. I would rather not go to a social event. But in terms of actually speaking, happy to speak.
Spoken like a true entrepreneur. That's that's very cool.
And today, everyone's glued to their phones, so they're not speaking anyways. Even if you're standing in front of them, they're texting. You're like, right. Will you look up and have a conversation?
Right.
Maybe that's what I'll try next time. I'll have to get out my phone, but I can't do the two thumbs thing. I'm like this.
Well, you could pretend.
I think that's a lot of what happens, like at trade shows and other things where everybody's glued to their phone. It's because they don't know what else to do. They just are not comfortable with the networking and things. So, yeah, I mean, a structured speech is one thing, but, networking is not the topic of today's conversation, but we probably should do a workshop on networking. And we actually role play that in our foundations course.
Yeah.
It is so hard. It is really, really hard to network in a way that is not awkward for everybody. And there are people who learn it, but I don't think anybody's born as a networker. I guess they are, because, you throw a bunch of kids together and they figure it out. So
I do. And I don't mind the networking once kind of the ice is broken.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody asks a question about, what we're doing in our company and the ice is broken, but those first couple of minutes or questions, for me, it's about how do I approach someone and how do I gracefully leave at the right time? It's like, okay, well, it's lagging, or I need to go speak to somebody else, or I need to work around the room or something. So all of the kind of the protocols of the whole networking is the piece I haven't figured out yet, or maybe I've been taught it. I just haven't, mastered it yet. But, if somebody starts asking about our technology or the company, and, then it's like, I could talk all night.
Yeah.
But that's part of it, is I need to figure out how to ask them the questions so that they're talking and draw them out instead of somebody having to draw me out.
Right. I'm sure you've heard the term FORM, family, occupation, recreation, mission. You've probably tried exercises.
I've heard it, and I've, like these big checklists. I've heard longer ones. I mean, FORM is only 4.
Yeah,
there's this stuff. Somebody was doing, was trying to teach me one of these memory things, but the memory thing was on questions that you can ask somebody. Yeah. So it's like, their name, where they live, last vacation, what they do. I mean, but, so like first I have to figure out the memory device of, I'm walking out my porch and I see this and I turn left and I go here, and all of these things are connected to something I'm supposed to ask them. And then when they give me the result, it connects to that spot, in my little walk around the neighborhood or whatever. It's just like, oh no.
Get distracted before you get through the checklist.
Right.
I'll just go get a piece of cake.
This was task.
Right. Exactly. An idea that might work for you is the Sherlock Holmes, where somebody's at an event and you try to deduce something about that person from something they're wearing about form, family, occupation, recreation, mission. So a ring or a tie tack or, airplane socks or whatever. If you can deduce something about that person and ask them about it, it's obviously something they're displaying. They chose to wear this. So it's probably fair game for a question. But the Sherlock Holmes might be a better approach for you. But anyway.
I think the big thing is it's one of those interests. I've had little classes and little workshops, and you sent me a little, one of these things. But it's like, it goes in one ear and out the other, because apparently I'm just not interested to remember it. I mean, I was just at a social event, there was a reception on Tuesday before a seminar all day Wednesday. And so again, it's like, networking is like, luckily somebody else was working the room and saying, oh, you need to come talk to him. Come deliver people to us.
Yeah.
And then we talk to them, and that's great, because it's like, oh, here's the introduction and away we go.
You get somebody with that skill set to lead you around.
Just bring the people in, and I'm right here, and I'm happy to then, continue the conversation. But I just need to, I guess, have enough interest to go memorize the tools and techniques and start practicing them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think part of, what he said in the book is that whole self-communication is a vital piece of this. Are you, how do you talk to yourself? How do you, engage yourself in awareness and confidence and whatnot? If you're not interested in something, it's like, I don't want to network. I don't need to do that. I'm going to go speak.
Right.
Or, if someone asks me the question, then I'll give them an answer, but I'm not into going around and asking everybody, hey, where do you live? Do you have any family? What was your last vacation? That's not what I'm interested in. That's not why I'm at this event or whatever.
Yeah. So self-persuasion is another big part of it, Have you sold yourself on the necessity of this task? And if you haven't, there is no amount of tricks that's going to help you. Right.
Especially if you're like, I don't need to do that. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that.
Exactly. Right.
I know the networking is critical. And frankly, I enjoy meeting the new people. I enjoy making the connections. It's all about the people. In any business, it's all about the people. So I get it. I think it's marvelous. It's just I'm more of an introvert, and I'm happy to share information when people want it, but I'm just not that person. I mean, they say, where do you get your energy?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you spend energy? Where do you get your energy?
Yeah.
I spend energy when I'm networking or giving a talk or whatever. I enjoy speaking or work, being on a panel or whatever it is, but I very deliberately go to a different place.
Mm-hmm.
I become a different person. I move to a place where, I'm very outgoing and I'm up and, very, in tune. And it's almost like getting yourself into the zone that athletes talk about.
Yeah.
And I will like get into a zone so that I can perform.
Yeah.
And yet, when it's over, it's kind of like, whew,
yep.
wow, okay, I need to go relax, unwind, get back to my introverted self. So,
yep, I get to go get a good night's sleep, and then maybe we'll talk about getting something done tomorrow because I've used my battery for the day.
That's it.
Yeah. So, Stella, how about you? What was your favorite thing about the book, or an experience you'd like to share?
Well, kind of like Michael, I've been speaking in front of groups since I was a kid. So it's nothing for me to get up in front of a group or to participate in a panel discussion or whatever. I was in, debate when I was in high school and college, and then now I put all those persuasion skills to work in my writing. So, yeah.
That's a wonderful thing. And, one thing I think that needs to happen really, I was in debate in high school. I think it was a great experience. I grew up in Utah, so I grew up with a lot of Michael's colleagues, and it is so nice to be around kids that started this early and learned this and, are just totally fine with getting up in front of a class. And my history class, we did the trial of Julius Caesar, or the trial of Brutus, actually. Would you have stabbed Julius Caesar given the same, was he guilty? And everybody had to get up and give a speech, and everybody was a different character in that play. And it was just really, really cool to learn to express yourself and to be around people who are able to, is so much easier, I think, than being around people that you have to draw out and get them to, pull their ideas out of their head. It's much harder than if they have these skills.
Yeah, but you know what? I went to a joint group facilitation. I don't know, I guess you call it a seminar to learn how to do that.
That was Cadence, right?
No. This is just facilitation, learning to lead a group.
Yeah.
I was tossed into a bunch of people that, man, they were tough. But they teach you how to make that work, because no matter what I said was wrong. And the point is, it's not about what I say. It's about how you pick a topic, any topic, and somebody says something and said, "Oh, that's pretty good, Joe, but hey, Ken, what do you think about that?" And then we get to everybody giving their opinions and attitudes. Then everybody starts coordinating with each other and talking, and it's quite an impressive tool to use once you figure it out. But I went through, pardon my French, but I went through hell for a day going through that class.
Yeah.
But since then, I have done a lot of sessions where there's up to hundreds of people. And it's actually quite easy and a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use these skills, these tips, whatever, a lot with my advanced English students. Because I teach English online. And so, having them do a short presentation in their non-native language, even if they're comfortable speaking in their native language in front of somebody or a group, it's a totally different experience to use it in another language.
Oh yeah, total next level confidence to be able to do that.
Yeah, and so that's something that in my small groups that I teach, they really like, because it pushes them to the next level in fluency.
Right. That's amazing. Another concept that I learned from Mickey and from you, John, is holding space. That concept of holding space for people to speak, who are not, like when you're working with a lot of folks who are introverts, who are engineers, who are, whatever it is that they are, and that's not something that they've learned. Learning to hold the space in a group for them to speak. What do you think about that? And then holding everybody else off because everybody else is jumping in, but you want this guy to speak. And that is a skill that is not easy either. So, but we have to do it because, sometimes the person with the best knowledge is not the one who's speaking. And that's, really frustrating for everyone.
Right. Event moderation.
Yeah, that's true.
We say, we are smarter than me.
Yes.
And that's a concept that's hard to get across to people. I mean, I had a bank executive come up to me and ask me to put together a plan to do a very large project. I said, okay. He said, but I can't do it by myself. I need these guys. And I named off names. He said, okay. And then we did it. But hell, I wouldn't have any idea.
Yeah, you had to hold
I'm just an IT project manager.
Right.
So I was just going to ask you, you sent out in the chat a little one pager. How would you, if you were doing the Cliff Notes, if I asked you to give me the Cliff Notes of the book, explain to me the Cliff Notes of the book. What are the Cliff Notes? Because the one pager is interesting. Make it enduring, make it first, make it forceful. Okay, that sounds great. But tell me more. I mean, what's the rest of the story?
Okay. So each of these represents a principle of persuasion or a cognitive bias that you can exploit. Okay. So, the first one, make it enduring. They're talking about the availability bias. The availability bias is basically, do you have an example in the front of your head that you can relate? So, if you're trying to prove a point about everybody gets shingles, okay, well, shingles is a big problem. Okay, well, I know somebody who has shingles, so therefore that's an available principle to me. But malaria is not, because I don't know anybody who's ever had malaria. So to me, shingles is a bigger problem than malaria, whether that's true or not, just because of the availability bias.
Gotcha.
So that's that one. The anchoring effect. And I don't know if we want to necessarily go through each of these as a specific bias, but this just makes it easier to remember each of those levers that are the reason that these work is because everybody is trying to conserve energy and everybody has biases. So exploiting those biases is something that good people do and something that bad people do. It's kind of a morally neutral thing, but if you do it better, you are going to get people's attention and hold people's attention. And if you are doing it for good reasons, it is perfectly morally okay to exploit these biases.
Gotcha.
You want to be simple, you want to be powerful, you want to be clear. And each of these biases is just another way to be simple, powerful, or clear. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Yeah. And so what I like about this checklist is I can go through any piece of writing or any speech that I'm preparing or anything like that, whether it's a 1-minute TikTok video or a 1-hour keynote. Is there anything from this list that I could use to make this speech more powerful? And a lot of it is about elimination as well as inclusion. So, is there anything here that is working against me that I need to get rid of from this speech? So, yeah, anyway, that's why I love the checklist. And that's why I love the fact that he put it into a mnemonic. So I can quickly, once I've learned this, go through a piece of writing or something and go, here are some ways to make it more powerful. And here are some ways that I'm sabotaging my intention without maybe meaning to,
Nice.
Yeah. So it's nothing that you haven't already learned, especially, having done public speaking and having done, the whole Aristotle rhetoric thing, in high school and everything else. It's just a nice way to categorize it in a nice checklist.
Wow.
So I'd
I'll
give
have
this
to apply it to our next pitch deck then.
Yes, exactly. That's absolutely correct. And you already are using a lot of these principles. It's just, are you using all of them that you could? And are we using any of them wrong, in a way that may be hurting us? And I think you're already doing a lot of that, but it's nice to have the checklist.
Or probably clueless and just happen to be stumbling upon these things in the process.
Accidentally doing them.
It's great when you do something right without meaning to, right? So that's cool.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Definitely highly recommended. I think it's worth the time to read. And that's not true of every book we read, but I give it a 9 out of 10.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what's your rating, John?
I didn't finish it, so I can't really say, but it took me back to my days of public speaking education in business school. And that's a rare thing to have somebody write about it and have it work that way.
Well, it looked really good. So it's like, I really need to get to this one. Some of them, they sound good, and then you get into them, it's like, this isn't nearly as good. Mm-hmm. Others, it's just they don't sound good. But this one sounded really good. So I look forward to getting into it. I just ran out of time.
Understood.
Yep.
Totally.
Yeah, good eye.
Cheat tip for you, Michael. When you find a book that looks like it's good, you want to read, go into chat and say, give me the Cliff Notes version of this book.
There you go.
Yeah, and then if you like the Cliff Notes from ChatGPT, then you go, okay, I need to read this, as my bedtime reading or whatever. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, if you say, that doesn't sound that great, or Cliff Notes is enough, then you've got the content, but you just haven't spent the time to read it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but let me caveat that with the fact that double check ChatGPT.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you're talking about a specific book that's not brand new, I mean, if it just came out last month, ChatGPT is going to make it up. Right. But if you're talking about a book that has been out for a while, like this one, ChatGPT is pretty good about doing that. And if you don't believe it, you can say, give me page references for each of these. Mm-hmm. And then ChatGPT will admit, I made all those up. Or it'll say page 27 or page 32 or whatever. Because I've done give me some quotations about X. And it'll give me a list of quotations that sound really good. I'm like, okay, give me citations for each of those. Oh, I just made those up. They're not real.
At least it's honest.
So ChatGPT is honest if it's, making up information. But, you have to know that and think about that before you say, oh, well, ChatGPT said, so I guess it's true. No.
That's another thing you can do in Circle, too, is you can ask people from the group, have you read this and is it any good? And then you'll get a perspective from aviation people, if they read it and if it was any good. I do have to say it was misleading. The title of this book is How to Speak Effectively, or how highly effective people speak.
It doesn't really talk about that.
I was expecting delivery. I was expecting voice. I was expecting, I was expecting performance, I guess. And there was none of that in here. It was all about content. So, other than that, with that caveat, I guess it was unexpected, but great. So.
Well, that's true of a lot of titles, though. That it says, this is the title of the book, and you read the book and going, what did this have to do with that? They don't match. So
false advertising, right? He didn't
exactly. We have a lot of that around.
Being trustworthy, and the halo effect fell right off, because he was violating his own principles with a bad title. But anyway,
exactly.
How would you rate it, Stella?
I would probably say 7.5 or an 8.
Okay.
Primarily because it's just, it's reiterating stuff that I already know.
Okay.
But it does have some good content in it. It does have some great ideas and suggestions, but it wasn't really anything that I learned something new.
Mm-hmm. Is there a better reference for this type of material? I know you read really widely and you've taken a lot of courses.
There are some good public speaking books. Off the top of my head, I'm not thinking of one at the moment.
Okay.
But I've got like 9,000 books in my Kindle library.
Right.
So I could probably pull one or two books out of there and come up with some.
Right. Okay. So it's not the best on this topic.
Not on this topic, no.
Okay. Cool. Good to know. Well, thanks, you guys. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you joining for this topic.